Okay, so today's lesson, or tonight's lesson, is on translating verbal expressions into algebraic expressions, and basically what that means is turning words, like in a word problem, to look more like math. So using numbers instead of words, and symbols like multiplication, division, addition, subtraction, parentheses, that kind of thing. So again, just like last time, I want you to make sure that you're adding this in your table of contents, you're filling out your learning target, you're adding the date and the page number at the top of your slide. So we're going to go on and we're going to look at example 1. And what I want you to have out next to you or near you somewhere is this paper that we gave you earlier today. So when you're looking at this, it's got common words that mean addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. Equals is, that's a big one. But the new ones that you may not have known a whole lot about were the than and the from. Those are turnaround words, which means it's going to flip the order of what's going on in the problem. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. And the parenthesis words, those are going to be important as well. So just keep this handy so that you can look at it, because I'm going to reference back to it a few times. Alright, so we're looking back at example 1. And example 1 says the quotient, and when we look at our words, quotient is division of a number. Now, they didn't tell me what this number is, so in math, what do we use for things we don't know? Well, we use a variable, and you can use any variable you want to. You can use your first initial. You can use any variable. That's totally up to you. I'm going to use x just because it's common. So the quotient of a number and 4. Okay, so what would that look like? That means I'm going to divide these two things, x and 4. But notice this of word. Of was a parenthesis word. So technically, it would look like this. The quotient, x divided by 4. But we don't really write things like this, especially in Algebra 1. We're a little more mature than that. So we're going to write it as just a fraction, x divided by 4. You don't have to put the parentheses in this case, because this is the only thing that's happening. Okay, so this is what we want the final answer to look like. Let's look at example 2. W more than 5. So they told us the variable we're going to use here, but here's that special word that I was pointing out earlier, than. Than's a turnaround word, which means I am going to flip the order of 5 and W, which means I'm starting with 5. And then the W is going to come after. More than. If I have 5 more of something, then I'm going to add, if I have W more of something, then I'm going to add W, whatever W is, to 5. So this is what the final answer of example 2 would look like. Example 3. The difference. Difference means subtract. Of is parentheses. 3 times a number. I don't know what that number is. So again, times is multiplication. A number, I'm just going to use x. So it's the difference of this entire thing. 3 times a number and 7. So 3 times a number would be 3 times x. And you can just write that as 3x. And I'm going to subtract, because it's the difference of these two things, that number and 7. And again, those parentheses aren't really doing anything there, so you can drop them. Typically, if you saw that expression, you can get rid of it because nothing's happening. So what I want you to notice, though, is that I did not flip the order of 7 and 3x. And the reason I did not flip the order is because there's no than or from in this case. Alright, example 4. 4 times the difference of y and 8. So I'm going to multiply 4 times something. And it looks like I'm going to multiply 4 times the difference of these two things. Which means these two things are going to go in parentheses. And inside those parentheses, I'm going to be subtracting those two things. So what it's going to look like is 4 times the difference of, so I'm going to subtract y and 8. And again, it didn't say like y less than 8 or anything like that, so I'm not going to be flipping it around. It's just 4 times y minus 8. And since that's 4 times that entire difference, I'm subtracting y and 8, and I'm multiplying 4 times that whole thing, I had to make sure to put those in parentheses. So that's why it's a parenthesis word. So the expression would look like this. And if I asked you to simplify that expression, obviously we would distribute and combine like terms if we could, but I'm not asking you to go that far. We just want to set it up today. So this is your final answer on example 4.